Hi, this is going to be a real short YouTube video featuring visits of the Lord to Enoch, Adam, and all the patriarchs, and also the brother of Jared in the Book of Mormon. We're going to be using LDS scriptures for all this. A brief timeline review on this is important. We're listing the age of Adam leaving the garden at 0. At 4000 BC. Some people put that at 4004. This is easier. Seth was born when Adam was 130 years out of the garden in 3870 BC. In other words, before Christ, or BCE, before current era. So these numbers go down, the ones on the left go up. We can see 105 years after Seth was born, Enos was born. These are the patriarchs. His son Canaan, this is the good Canaan, spelled like Cain and Canaan. Mahalalel, Jared, and Enoch, the seventh from Adam. When Adam was 622 years old, that's when Enoch was born. Show that 3378 BC. 3313 BC is when Methuselah was born, which was when Enoch was 65 years old, and the city of Zion was built, according to the Book of Moses, chapter 7, the Pearl of Great Price, in the LDS Scriptures. I'm going to take a look down here. Adam dies when he's 930 in 3070 BC. We're going to look at 3 years before that in a particular visit. Noah's flood, 1656 years after leaving Eden, in 2344 BC. A few years later, we've got, Peleg born, 2242 BC it says. That's when the continents of the earth were supposedly divided up, according to the Bible. Scientists say, I think, about 60 million years ago, but we're using this timeline here. About 2200 BC, close to this date here, is when we'd have Nimrod. He's not one of the patriarchs, so he's not listed in this particular timeline. But Nimrod is associated with building the Tower of Babel here. Tower of Babel, Nimrod, Tower of Babel. And that relates to the time that the Jaredites, the first people in the Book of Mormon, left Babel and had their experiences, including the brother of Jared visiting with the Lord face to face. So now we're going to take a look at a couple of these. I'm going to start off. Actually, I'm going to. I guess I will take a look here. Enoch was 25 years old when he was ordained under the hand of Adam, and he was 65 when Adam blessed him. This is found in section 107 of the Doctrine and Covenants of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It says, speaking of Enoch, and he saw the Lord and walked with him and was before his face continually, and he walked with God 365 years, making him 430 years old when he was translated, made immortal, along with everyone in his city. So, he saw the Lord and walked with him. Okay? We'll move along here. 3 years previous to the death of Adam, he called Seth, Enos, Canaan, Mahalalel, Jared, Enoch, and Methuselah, who were all high priests, with the residue of his posterity, who were righteous, into the valley of Adam-on-Diamon, and there bestowed upon them his last blessing. Okay, so all of Adam's righteous descendants there and the 8 patriarchs named. Verse 54 says, "And the Lord appeared unto them, and they rose up and blessed Adam, and called him Michael, the prince, the archangel." Okay, the Lord appeared unto them, and the Lord administered comfort unto Adam, and said unto him, "I have set thee to be at the head. A multitude of nations shall come of thee, and thou art a prince over them forever." Okay, this says it's 3 years previous to Adam's death. 3 years previous to the death of Adam. So that would be in 900, when he was 927 years old, or it said 3073 BC. Okay, according to our timeline. Now, let's take a look back here in the Book of Moses, chapter 7. And we've got Enoch. Should have had this where I wanted it. Take just a second. Selections from the Book of Moses, chapter 7, translated by Joseph Smith, December of 1830. It says that Enoch is visiting with God here. We're going to go to verse 3. You see it there if you want to freeze it. And I'll expand it for cell phones. "And it came to pass that I turned and went up onto the mount, and as I stood on the mount, I beheld the heavens open, and I was clothed upon with glory. And I saw the Lord, and he stood before my face, and he talked with me, even as a man talketh one with another, face to face." Face to face. "And he said unto me, Look, and I will show unto thee the world for the space of many generations." It goes on to show him a vision that I will discuss in another episode here of these. I'm going to skip to verse 13. "And so great was the faith of Enoch that he led the people of God, and their enemies came to battle against them, and he spake the word of the Lord, and the earth trembled, and the mountains fled, even according to his command. And the rivers of water were turned out of their course, and the roar of the lions was heard out of the wilderness. And all nations feared greatly. So powerful was the word of Enoch, and so great was the power of the language which God had given him." I'm going to skip up here to about verse 21. "And it came to pass that the Lord showed unto Enoch all the inhabitants of the earth, and he beheld, and lo, Zion, in process of time, was taken up into heaven. And the Lord said unto Enoch, Behold, mine abode forever." You know, I should have read verse 16 first. "And from that time forth there were wars and bloodshed among them. But the Lord came and dwelt with his people." Dwelt with his people. "And they dwelt in righteousness. And the Lord called his people Zion, because they were of one heart and one mind, and dwelt in righteousness, and there was no poor among them. And Enoch continued his preaching in righteousness unto the people of God. And it came to pass in his days that he built a city that was called the City of Holiness, even Zion. And it came to pass that Enoch talked with the Lord, and he said unto the Lord, Surely Zion shall dwell in safety forever. But the Lord said unto Enoch, Zion have I blessed, but the residue of the people have I cursed. Enoch and all his people walked with God, and dwelt in the midst of Zion. And it came to pass that Zion was not, for God received it unto his own bosom. and from thence went forth the saying, Zion is fled. Now we jump into the Book of Mormon. We're in the Book of Ether, representing the first group of people that came from the Middle East to the Promised Land. The record of the Jaredites. And so what does it say here? Chapter 1. Moroni abridges the writings of Ether. Ether's genealogy set forth. The language of the Jaredites is not confounded at the Tower of Babel. The Lord promises to lead them to a choice land and to make them a great nation. Okay, so we go to chapter 3. And so, brother of Jared has talked with the Lord, and the Lord has told him he's going to take him to a promised land. Eventually they have him build some barges. They're light like a dish, but somehow they wind up going underwater for a while. Doesn't make a lot of sense. They don't have any light in them. There's no windows, and there's no air. So Jesus asks the brother of Jared to figure it out himself, and he comes up with an idea. He cut a hole in the top and the bottom. Maybe Jesus tells him that, and then brother Jared comes up with some white rocks he gets out of a mountain, and he asks the Lord to touch him. You all know that story, or many of us do. So he says, "Be merciful unto us, Lord. Touch him with your finger." And then the Lord touches him with his finger, and he sees the finger of the Lord. And he falls down and freaks out. And the Lord, who's supposed to know everything, suddenly doesn't. And he says, "Why have you fallen? Rise up." And he said, "I saw your finger. I thought you might smite me." And then he says, "Did you see more than that?" So again, he doesn't know what's going on. And he says, No. So he says, "Show yourself to me." And the Lord says, "Well, will you believe what I tell you?" And he goes, "Sure, I know you're a God of truth. You can't lie." So he shows himself to him, and he's totally amazed. Then the Lord says to him, verse 14, Trinitarian doctrine says, "Behold, I am Jesus Christ. I am the Father and the Son." So maybe we'll talk about that in another video. It's Trinitarian doctrine. But in verse 9, he tells him, "Lord said unto him, Because of thy faith thou hast seen that I shall take upon me flesh and blood. Never has man come before me with such exceeding great faith as thou hast. Were it not so, you could not have seen my finger." That's where he said, "Did you see more than this?" Then in verse 15, he says, "And never have I showed myself unto man, whom I have created. For never has man believed in me as thou hast." Okay, how about that? Now, the problem is, this is like 800 years after the visit with Adam and Adam-on-Diamond and all the people there. And, between 7 and 1100 years after he started hanging out with Enoch, face to face, living with him in Zion. But here he says he's never seen him. Never. No one's ever seen him. So Jesus lied to the brother of Jared, or Joseph Smith and Moses and Enoch lied about the other visits we just read about. So, Doctrine and Covenants 1, the Lord says, He declares the Book of Mormon was translated by His power, and it's correct. All these scriptures came by revelation of Joseph Smith, but they're absolutely contradicting. They can't all, therefore, be true. Some of them have to be not true, or all of them have to be not true. If one of them is not true, and Joseph Smith is phony, then we can't trust any of them. So, how do we deal with this? It's very clear. Jesus said, "You're the first one, and no one's ever had enough faith." Even though Enoch moved mountains and was face to face with the Lord and lived with him 365 years before being translated, and all those other people that were with him. Amazing. And besides that, why would they come down to Adam-on-Diamond to meet the Lord when they're already living with him for the last 240 years at that point? Sometimes praying about it isn't enough. Sometimes you got to read the evidence and see the test of the prophet. So, according to the presidents of the church, including Gordon B. Hinckley, everything hinges on the truth of things like the first vision in the Book of Mormon. They say if the Book of Mormon's true, then Joseph Smith's a prophet and the church is true. But we just read that it is contradicting the other scriptures given to Joseph Smith. We've got problems with the very foundation of the church, therefore.